Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a stack of research on the desk today that, I'll be honest, when I first saw it, it really triggered my skepticism radar.
I can see why.
We're looking at the work of Dr. William Lai, a physician, a researcher, and he talks about something he calls our health defenses. And just on the surface, the promise here sounds, I don't know, a little too good to be true. It sounds almost like science fiction.
It really does. It sounds a bit like a comic book premise, doesn't it? The idea that you have these hidden powers inside you.
Exactly. A comic book premise. The core idea is that we have these hidden superpowers, and he means literal biological mechanisms inside us that can, regenerate organs, heal us from the inside out, and even reverse diseases that, well, that standard medicine tells us are permanent.
Right. The stuff you're supposed to just manage.
Yes, and the kicker, the activation codes for these superpowers aren't some million-dollar experimental drug. They are things like dark chocolate, blueberries, and even just how you sleep.
Which is exactly where the skepticism usually comes in, right? When you hear, eat chocolate to cure heart disease, it just sounds like clickbait.
Total clickbait. It sounds like something you'd see on a tabloid cover in the checkout line at the supermarket.
Yeah, next to the alien sightings.
Exactly. I just immediately feel like I'm being sold a bill of goods. But then I started really digging through Dr. Lay's credentials, looking at the actual clinical data he presents, and I realized, okay, this isn't about magic foods. It's about specific molecular interactions.
That is the absolute key distinction. We aren't talking about magic. We are talking about biology. Dr. Lee's work is all about a paradigm shift.
A paradigm shift, how?
Well, traditional medicine is often about management. You get a diagnosis, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and the goal is just to manage the decline.
Slow the car down before it crashes.
You try to slow the car down before it crashes. That's a perfect way to put it. Dr. Lee is talking about reversal. He's talking about actually turning the car around.
And that's really the mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack the science behind these health defenses. Specifically, we're going to look at angiogenesis, regeneration, the microbiome, and immunity. I want to understand the mechanism of how these things actually work so you, the listener, can, use them.
But before we get into the heavy science, we should probably issue our usual little disclaimer.
Right. Always a good idea.
Dr. Lee's a doctor, an MD. We are not. We're guides, and we're here to analyze his source material. So nothing we say today is personal medical advice for you.
No.
We are here to give you the tools and the knowledge to understand what's happening inside your own body so you can make better choices and have better conversations with your actual doctor.
Okay, disclaimer noted. Let's jump into the deep end. The first concept I think we really need to tackle is regeneration. Because when I hear regeneration, I think of, like, a starfish growing a leg back.
Or a lizard's tail.
A lizard's tail, or maybe Wolverine from the X-Men. I don't think of human beings. I always thought that once our organs are damaged, that's it. They're done.
And that was the prevailing dogma for a very, very long time. The idea was that humans heal by scarring. You cut your skin, it knits back together, but there's a scar, right? It's never quite the same.
Yeah, we can always see the line.
Exactly. If you damage your heart, you get scar tissue.
Yeah.
But the research Dr. Lake highlights, it completely overturns that idea. It turns out we do regenerate. We are doing it constantly. And the engine behind all that regeneration is stem cells.
Stem cells is such a loaded term. I feel like for the last 20 years, it's been a political football or some sci-fi trope.
It has.
People think of embryonic stem cells, all that controversy, or they think of, wealthy athletes flying to Switzerland to get injections in their knees.
Yeah, and we need to strip all of that away for this conversation. So let's just be super clear. We are not talking about embryos and we are not talking about injections. We're talking about adult stem cells that you were born with. They are already inside you.
Okay.
Right now. According to the source material, the average adult has roughly 70 million of these stem cells just sitting dormant in their body.
70 million. That is a massive number. Where are they hiding?
Mostly in the bone marrow, but also in the lining of your blood vessels and even in your body fat. Dr. Lean uses a really great analogy here. He compares them to a SWAT team.
A SWAT team.
Or another one he uses is bees inside a hive. Most of the time, they're just kind of buzzing around in there, waiting for a call. They're inactive. But they are highly specialized, rapid response units.
So what's the 911 call? What makes them wake up?
Damage. It's distress signals.
Yeah.
When you have an injury, let's say you tear a muscle or you have damage to a blood vessel from high blood pressure, that damaged tissue releases specific chemical signals into the bloodstream.
It's like a flare gun.
Think of it exactly like a flare gun going off. The stem cells in the marrow, they see that flare, and they mobilize.
Mobilize meaning
Uh-huh.
they physically move.
Yes, they physically fly out of the marrow and enter your bloodstream. Millions of them. And this is the really cool part. They have a homing mechanism. They don't just float around aimlessly.
Not just drifting.
No, they can literally sniff out the location of the injury. They circulate, find the damaged organ, land on it, and then, this is the magic, they differentiate. They turn into the cells that are needed.
Wait, so if they land on the liver, they become liver cells?
They become hepatocytes, yeah. If they land on the heart, they become heart muscle. If they land on a blood vessel, they become the endothelial cells that line it.
That is just wild. It's literal rebuilding from the inside out.
It is, and it's happening every single day. We are constantly suffering from wear and tear, micro injuries, from stress, from aging, from environmental toxins. This SWAT team is constantly out there patching us up.
So what's the problem? If we have this amazing system, why do we get chronic disease?
The problem is that as we age, or if we are dealing with a chronic disease, the SWAT team gets a little sluggish. The bees don't fly out as fast. The hive goes quiet. The response time slows down.
Okay, and this brings us to the study that frankly blew my mind. Because if the SWAT team is sluggish, the logical next question is, how do we wake them up? And I expected the answer to be some high-tech laser therapy or a new pharmaceutical.
Some $100,000 treatment.
Right. But Dr. Lee points to chocolate.
I know, it sounds ridiculous. It really does. But let's look at the data, because the details matter immensely here.
Okay.
If you go out and buy a Milky Way or a Hershey's bar, you are doing absolutely nothing for your stem cells. You're just spiking your insulin.
Right. It's not a candy bar prescription.
No. Dr. Lee is talking specifically about dark chocolate with a very high percentage of cacao. We're talking 70% or higher.
Why the specific percentage? What is in the cacao that actually matters?
It's the bioactives, specifically a group of chemicals called flavanols and, a longer word, proanthocyanidins.
Okay.
These are just compounds found in the actual plant material of the cacao bean. So the darker the chocolate, the more plant material you have, and the less sugar and dairy filler you have.
So more of the good stuff.
Way more of the good stuff. And these bioactives, they act as a signaling mechanism. They effectively mimic the body's natural distress flares. They're like a decoy flare.
So you eat the chocolate, and your bone marrow thinks it's go time.
Precisely. And there is a specific clinical study mentioned in the material that illustrates this perfectly. It involved participants who were around 60 years old.
And these weren't like healthy 60-year-olds who run marathons.
No, not at all. These were people with established cardiovascular disease. They had atherosclerosis. That means their blood vessels were stiff, they had plaque buildup, their circulation was already compromised.
So in the traditional medical view, these people are in maintenance mode.
Exactly. You give them the statins, you tell them to be careful, and you basically accept that their arteries are damaged for good.
Right. Hardening of the arteries is usually seen as a one-way street. You don't. You don't unharden them.
That's the assumption. But in this study, the intervention was incredibly simple. They had these patients drink 2 cups of hot chocolate every day for 30 days.
Just hot chocolate. No other drugs. No lifestyle changes.
Just hot chocolate made from high flavanol dark chocolate. And here's what they found. They drew blood from these participants before the study and after the study, and they literally counted the number of circulating stem cells.
Okay.
After 30 days, the number of stem cells in their bloodstream had doubled.
Doubled in a month.
Doubled. 2 times the number of repair cells were just patrolling their bodies. But it wasn't just a number on a page. The physiological effect was measurable and significant.
How did they measure it?
They used a test called flow-mediated dilation. Basically, they put a blood pressure cuff on your arm, tighten it to stop the blood flow for a minute, and then release it.
Right.
And they use an ultrasound to watch how quickly and how much the blood vessel snaps back open. It's a direct measure of the flexibility and the health of the vessel wall.
So it's like testing the elasticity of a rubber band.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And what did they find?
What'd they find?
The response significantly improved. The blood vessels were more elastic, more resilient, and they were capable of better blood flow. In 30 days, these 60-year-olds with permanent heart disease effectively reversed the age of their blood vessels.
That's profound. I mean, we are talking about agency here. I think so many people feel like passengers in their own bodies, especially as they get older.
Totally.
You think, well, my genes say I'm going to get heart disease, so I guess I'll just wait for it. This suggests that we have levers we can actually pull.
Exactly. And the lever isn't always something painful or difficult. Sometimes the lever is a really rich, dark cup of cocoa. It completely challenges the nihilism of aging. It says that the body wants to repair itself It just needs the right signal.
The body wants to repair itself. I love that. But let's flip the script a little bit. We've
Yeah.
talked about repairing damage in someone who is sick. What about someone who's, healthy, someone who is trying to be super healthy?
The athletes.
Yes, because there is this paradox Dr. Lai brings up regarding athletes.
The fit but sick paradox.
Yes, I have seen this in my own life. I have friends who train for marathons or triathlons. They are in the absolute best shape of their lives. They look incredible. And then 2 days after the big race, boom, they're laid out on the couch with the flu.
It's a very, very common phenomenon in elite and endurance sports. We have this general assumption that exercise is linearly good for immunity.
Bore's better, right?
Like if a little exercise boosts your immune system, a lot of exercise must boost it even more. But biology is rarely ever linear. It's usually a curve, a bell curve.
Okay.
Moderate exercise, a brisk walk after dinner, light jogging, absolutely boosts immunity. It gets the blood moving. It mobilizes immune cells. It's fantastic. But high-intensity, prolonged exertion like running 26 miles places a massive stress load on the body.
Stress is stress, right. It doesn't matter to your body whether you are running from a predator or running for a medal.
Exactly. To your body, a marathon looks a lot like a survival crisis. You are burning through all your fuel stores, you're creating micro tears in your muscles, you're generating huge amounts of oxidative stress.
It's an emergency.
It's an emergency. And to cope with that physical demand, the body has to prioritize. And often, it prioritizes immediate survival over long-term defense. So it temporarily shuts down parts of the immune system.
Dr. Lee calls this the open window, right?
Yes, the open window theory. Immediately after a high-intensity event, your immune defenses drop below baseline. It's like the castle guards are so tired from the battle, they just leave the drawbridge down. And for anywhere from 3 to 72 hours post-race, viruses and bacteria can just waltz right in. That's why you see so many runners sniffling and coughing at the finish line.
So if you are training hard, or maybe you just have a really stressful physical job, what do? Do you just have to accept that you're going to get sick all the time?
No, you prepare.
Yeah.
You preload the system. And this brings us to another one of his great names, the Blueberry Shield.
The Blueberry Shield. I love these names. They're so memorable.
It's catchy, but the science behind it is really solid. There was a study done specifically on athletes to see if they could close this open window.
What'd they do?
They had a group of runners eat just 1 cup of blueberries a day for 3 weeks leading up to a major race.
Again, a very achievable prescription. 1 cup, not a truckload.
Right, and consistency is the key here. It wasn't about eating a gallon of berries the morning of the race. It was about priming the system over time.
What's special about blueberries?
They are packed with anthocyanins. That's the pigment that makes them blue. It's a really potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compound.
Okay, so they eat the blueberries for 3 weeks. Then what did the study find?
They monitored specific immune cells, in this case, natural killer cells, or NK cells and T cells.
NK cells, what do they do?
Think of NK cells as the snipers of the immune system. They don't fight the whole army. They have a very specific job to spot your own cells that have been infected by a virus or have become cancerous, and they take them out with precision.
So they're incredibly important.
Crucial. And usually the counts of these cells just tank after a marathon. But in the blueberry group, they didn't.
They stayed normal.
They actually stayed elevated. The blueberry protocol had effectively raised the waterline of their immunity. So when the stress of the marathon hit and their levels inevitably dropped, they dropped from a much higher starting point. They never fell into that dangerous open window zone.
That is such a great strategy. It's not about treating the cold after you get it. It's about building the fortress walls higher before the attack even comes.
It's proactive biology. And it leads us perfectly into the next major topic, which is the mechanism of that attack itself. We really need to talk about inflammation.
Oh, inflammation. The boogeyman of modern health. I feel like I see anti-inflammatory on everything now. Shampoos, dog food, bottled water. We're just told that inflammation is the root of all evil.
And that is a huge and actually dangerous oversimplification. Dr. Lee is very, very careful to distinguish between the 2 types of inflammation. Because if you got rid of all inflammation, you would die.
Okay, let's unpack that. That sounds counterintuitive. Why would I die without inflammation?
Because acute inflammation is your body's emergency response system. Dr. Liu uses another one of his great analogies for this, hotel housekeeping.
I like this one already.
Okay, so imagine your body is a hotel room. and you have a wild party that's an injury or a bacterial infection or even just a really hard workout, the room is trashed. There's pizza on the ceiling, the bed is broken, it's a mess.
Been there.
Acute inflammation is the housekeeping staff rushing in. And they are aggressive. They spray chemicals to kill bacteria, they strip the sheets, they haul out all the trash. It's a chaotic, energetic, and messy process. You see this on the outside as redness, swelling, heat.
Right, if I twist my ankle, it swells up. That's the housekeeping crew arriving on the scene.
Exactly, and you need them. If they don't show up, the trash stays there. The ankle never heals, the bacteria spreads. So acute inflammation is the hero of this story.
That there's a villain.
The problem arises when the housekeeping staff refuses to leave. Yes. Imagine the room is clean, the party is over, but the housekeeping staff sits down on the sofa, they order room service on your tab, and they start tearing up the carpet just because they're bored. They start damaging the fixtures. That is chronic inflammation.
Oh.
It's a low-grade, simmering fire that never goes out. And instead of attacking bacteria, the immune cells start attacking healthy tissue. They attack your blood vessels, leading to heart disease. They attack your neurons, contributing to dementia. They attack your joints, causing arthritis.
So the goal isn't no inflammation, it's contained inflammation. We want the crew to come in, do the job, and then get out.
Correct. You want them to leave a 5-star review and go home. And Dr. Lee suggests that food acts as the supervisor that politely but firmly tells the crew when to leave.
He talks about seasonal fruits, right?
He does. He specifically talks about seasonal fruits as guards that keep the fire contained. He mentions things like peaches in the summer, apples in the fall, pears, and citrus in the winter.
Is that just a culinary preference, or is there some real biology there?
There seems to be biology to it. Nature tends to package specific anti-inflammatory polyphenols in the foods that are available at that time of year. These compounds help quell that fire. They keep the campfire in the pit, as he says, so it doesn't burn down the whole forest.
It's a really nice way to think about it. You're not just eating a peach because it's sweet and delicious. You are sending in the supervisor to dismiss the cleaning crew.
Exactly. But there's another massive factor in inflammation and repair that we absolutely have to discuss. We can eat all the blueberries and chocolate we want, but if we aren't doing this one thing right, the whole system just breaks down.
What is it?
We need to talk about sleep.
Sleep. The thing everyone knows they need but almost nobody gets enough of.
And we have a huge cultural problem with sleep. We view it as downtime. We think of it as being lazy or passive. I'll sleep when I'm dead, right?
Yeah, the early bird gets the worm. We prize the hustle, the grind.
But biologically, sleep is anything but passive. It is a highly active metabolic state. Dr. Lee calls it the car wash. And to understand why, we have to look at what's happening in the brain.
The brain is the one organ that never really shuts off, right? It's always on.
It doesn't shut off, but it dramatically changes modes. During the day, your brain is in acquisition mode.
Yeah.
You're thinking, solving problems, moving, navigating the world. This burns a huge amount of energy.
More than any other organ.
By far. And just like a car engine burning fuel, it creates exhaust, metabolic waste. Misfolded proteins like amyloid beta accumulate in the brain tissue. It's like, your kids are playing with Legos all day. They're just kicking them under the sofa. The room gets messy.
What happens at night? Where does the car wash come in?
When you enter deep sleep, a system called the glymphatic system activates. This was a massive discovery in neuroscience just in the last decade or so. The glial cells, which are the support cells in your brain, they literally shrink in size. They shrivel up.
They make space.
They make space. And this opens up these wide channels between your neurons. And then cerebrospinal fluid rushes through those channels like a high-pressure hose.
Wow.
It physically flushes out the toxins, the amyloid beta, all those Lego blocks that accumulated during the day. It washes them down into the liver to be processed and removed from the body.
So if you only sleep 4 or 5 hours, you're essentially stopping the car wash in the middle of the cycle. You're leaving soap all over the windshield.
You are driving around a dirty car day after day. The plaque builds up. And over years and decades, that buildup is directly linked to Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline.
That's terrifying, but it's also incredibly motivating. Now, Dr. Lee connects this to diet in a way I hadn't really thought of before. He talks about late-night eating.
This is so crucial. We have this habit of the midnight snack or the big late dinner.
Mm.
But Dr. Lee warns that this actively sabotages the car wash.
How does eating affect the brain wash? They seem like two separate systems.
It's an energy distribution problem.
Mm.
Digestion is one of the most energy-intensive things your body does. It requires a massive amount of blood flow to be shunted to the stomach and intestines to break down that food.
Okay.
If you eat a heavy meal at 10:00 p.m. and then you try to go to bed at 11:00 p.m., your body is conflicted. It's getting two different work orders. It needs to send blood to the gut to digest, but it also needs to send energy to the brain for the glymphatic flush and to the rest of the body for all the other repair systems.
It can't do both well at the same time.
It can't. It has to choose. And the body will always prioritize digestion because that undigested food in your gut is an immediate problem. So the repair mechanisms, the stem cell patrols, the DNA repair, the glymphatic flush, they all get put on the back burner.
You're forcing your body to do double duty.
Yes. So you wake up feeling groggy, not just because you missed out on sleep, but because your body spent the whole night working the night shift at the digestion factory instead of at the repair shop.
That makes perfect sense. The advice then is pretty simple. So simple.
Mhm.
Stop eating well before bed. Give your body a fasting window before sleep, maybe 3 or 4 hours, so that when your head hits the pillow, the digestion is done and the maintenance crew can focus 100% on repair.
It's about clearing the deck. Now, we've talked about the brain and we've talked about the blood, but we need to go to what Dr. Lee considers the center of the universe, the gut.
The gut microbiome. It is definitely the hottest topic in medicine right now, and for very good reason. But Dr. Lee drops a statistic about the gut and our immunity that I think most people have absolutely no idea about.
I certainly didn't. I always thought immunity lived in, my lymph nodes. When you go to the doctor and they feel your neck for swollen glands, I thought that's where all the soldiers were.
Those are important outposts, for sure. But the main barracks, the central command, 70% of your immune system lives in the walls of your gut.
70%. That is a staggering majority. It's almost unbelievable. It is. And to understand why, you have to visualize the anatomy. Dr. Law describes the gut as a long tube, like a garden hose. The food goes through the hollow center. But the wall of that hose is where all the magic is happening.
Okay.
Inside that wall, specifically in layers called the lamina propria and in structures called Peyer's patches, you have these incredibly dense clusters of immune cells. B cells, T cells, NK cells, all of them.
So the immune system is living in the walls of the house, and the bacteria are living in the hallway.
That's a great way to put it. And the wall separating them is incredibly thin. In many places, it's just one single cell thick. So the bacteria in the hallway and the immune cells in the wall are practically touching.
They're neighbors.
Very close neighbors. Dr. Lai compares them to college roommates living in a dorm with paper-thin walls. They can hear everything the other is doing. They're constantly shouting back and forth.
They're constantly talking to each other.
It's a constant crosstalk. The bacteria produce metabolites, these are little chemical messages, that pass through that thin wall and tell the immune system what to do.
So what are they saying?
Well, if you have good bacteria, a healthy, diverse microbiome, they send calming signals. They produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, and they tell the immune cells, hey, everything is cool out here. Stand down. No need for inflammation.
But if you have bad bacteria...
If you have what's called dysbiosis, an overgrowth of bad bacteria from eating too much sugar, processed food, those bacteria shout through the wall. They release inflammatory compounds, and they scream, attack! Danger! We're under siege! They trigger the immune system to be constantly on edge, constantly inflamed.
So when we say you are what you eat, we really mean your immune system is what you feed your bacteria.
Precisely. You have to feed the good roommates so they keep the peace. And this brings us to what we should be feeding them. We all know fiber is good, that's not new. But Dr. Leah highlights some specific superfoods for the gut that are really powerful.
Let's run through the list. Number 1 on his list was the kiwi.
The kiwi. It's such a fascinating little fruit. Dr. Lee calls it a health bomb. It has tons of vitamin C, which is great for inflammation. But the fiber in kiwi has been shown in studies to rapidly change the microbiome profile for the better.
How rapidly?
There was research showing that eating just 2 kiwis a day could significantly improve constipation and gut bacterial diversity in as little as 24 hours.
24 hours? That's incredible. Usually diet changes take weeks or months to show any real results.
That's the power of feeding the bacteria exactly what they want. They multiply so fast.
Yeah.
If you give them the right fuel, the good guys can take over territory for the bad guys very, very quickly.
Okay, so kiwi. What else?
Avocado. We all love it for the healthy fats, but it is deceptively high in fiber. A medium avocado has a massive amount of soluble fiber compared to most other fruits. It's creamy, so you don't think of it as fibrous, but it is.
And the last one was mushrooms, right?
Yes, mushrooms, which are polarizing. Some people love that texture, some people really hate it.
I'm a fan. But what's the secret?
That chewy texture is the secret weapon. That texture comes from a specialized type of fiber called beta-glucan. Your body can't digest it, so it passes all the way down to the gut bacteria in your colon, and they feast on it.
And what happens then?
In return, the beta-glucans do a few amazing things. They stimulate the immune system. They've been shown to specifically activate those stem cells we talked about at the beginning, and they powerfully suppress inflammation.
It's all connected. You eat the mushroom feeds the bacteria then tell the immune system to chill out, and the beta-glucans from the mushroom wake up the stem cells. It's like a symphony.
It is a biological symphony, and once you start to understand these connections, you can start to look at other, health fads with a more critical scientific eye. Take collagen, for example.
Okay, yes. Let's go to the skeptics' corner. Because for years, I thought collagen supplements were absolute nonsense.
You were not alone.
Ugh.
Dr. Lead admits in the source material that he was a huge skeptic, too, for the exact same reasons.
The logic against it just seems so sound, right? Collagen is a protein. When you eat protein, your stomach acid and enzymes dissolve it into its basic building blocks, amino acids. It completely destroys the structure.
Right.
So eating a piece of a cow's joint shouldn't make your joint grow back. It's like eating hair to cure baldness. It makes no biological sense.
That was the standard biologist's view for a long time. Hydrolysis destroys the structure, therefore the supplement is useless. It's just expensive protein powder. But then the clinical trials started coming out. And they were well-conducted trials showing real measurable results.
What kind of results?
People with osteoarthritis were having less pain and better mobility. People's skin elasticity and hydration were improving. The data was there. So Dr. Lees had to reconcile his scientific skepticism with the clinical evidence.
So what was the missing piece? How does it possibly work if the stomach just destroys it?
The breakthrough was understanding that the destruction is the mechanism. The stomach acid doesn't dissolve it into nothing. It chops the long collagen protein into tiny fragments called peptides. It turns one big thing into millions of little specifically shaped things.
Okay, so you have these fragments.
These fragments then get absorbed and enter your bloodstream. And here's the key. They don't act as building blocks. They act as signals. They are like little keys. They circulate through your body until they find a specific type of cell called a fibroblast. That's the cell that acts like a little factory to make collagen in your skin and your joints.
And the fragment is the key to the factory door.
It's the key that turns the factory on. The fragment docks onto a receptor on the fibroblast and sends a message. Hey, get to work. Start producing more collagen.
Oh, wow. So you aren't eating the brick that fills the hole in the wall. You are eating the foreman who yells at the construction crew to start laying more bricks.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a biological trigger. The supplement stimulates your body to make its own new collagen. And once Dr. Lee understood it was a signaling mechanism, not a replacement mechanism, all the data suddenly made perfect sense.
That is a huge shift in perspective. It really justifies taking a second look at some of these things. What about creatine? Because again, my immediate association with creatine is gym bro.
Big tubs of white powder.
Exactly. I picture guys like lifting heavy weights, getting puffy muscles. That's it.
That's the stereotype, for sure. And it is true that creatine is fantastic for helping muscle cells generate explosive energy. But Dr. Lee points out that muscle isn't the only tissue in your body that needs a ton of energy. Your brain is an energy hog.
Right. The brain is what, 2% of our body weight, but uses something like 20% of our total energy?
Exactly. It's incredibly metabolically active.
Oh.
And creatine plays a vital role in recycling ATP, which is the fundamental energy currency of every cell. Dr. Lee highlights creatine as a neuroprotectant. It helps the brain function better under stress.
He mentioned head trauma specifically, which was interesting.
Yes, and this is so important. We aren't just talking about NFL players or boxers getting knocked out. We're talking about the micro-concussions of everyday life.
What do you mean by that?
Slipping on the ice and jarring your head, a fender bender in your car, even just the intense cognitive fatigue of a really hard week at work. These are all insults to the brain.
So taking creatine could help your brain recover from those insults faster or better.
The evidence suggests it helps preserve brain function and aids recovery. It's not just for your biceps, it's for your neurons. It's another perfect example of a molecule that we pigeonholed into sports nutrition when it actually belongs in the category of general health defenses.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We've got stem cells, immunity, inflammation, the gut, sleep, collagen. I want to try and land the plane with some practical, actionable advice. Dr. Lee provides 3 specific tips to kickstart health. These seem simple on the surface, but as we've learned, the devil is in the details.
The details change everything. Let's start with tip number 1, The holy trinity of beverages.
Water, tea, coffee. Sounds simple enough. I think most of us drink those anyway.
But how do you drink them? That's the question. Let's look at water first. Dr. Lee is very specific. Filtered water or water from glass bottles only.
This is about the microplastics issue, isn't it?
It is. The research on microplastics is really, really terrifying. We're now finding that plastic water bottles, especially if they get warm, like if you leave one in your car, they can shed millions of microscopic plastic particles directly into the water.
And we just drink them.
You drink them, and they can lodge in your gut lining, triggering inflammation. They disrupt that delicate microbiome we just spent 10 minutes talking about. It's a huge problem.
So ditch the plastic, get a stainless steel bottle, or drink from glass. Got it. Now, tea and coffee. This is the one that I think is going to upset some listeners.
I apologize in advance to all the latte lovers out there. Coffee and tea are incredible liquid medicines. They are packed with powerful polyphenols, specifically chlorogenic acid in coffee, and a compound called EGCG in green tea. These things have been shown to fight cancer, protect the heart, and even activate those stem cells.
Wait, there's a big but.
A huge but. You must drink them black or with a plant-based milk. You absolutely cannot add dairy milk.
Why? Is it the calories or the fat?
It's not the calories, it's the chemistry. Dairy milk contains a specific protein called casein. When you mix dairy into coffee or tea, the casein molecules bind directly to the polyphenol molecules.
They stick together.
They wrap around them like a gloved hand grabbing a baseball. It forms this large molecular complex, and that complex is too big for your gut to absorb.
So it just passes through.
It just slides right through your digestive tract and you excrete it. You completely lose the benefit. If you add cow's milk to your green tea, you are essentially neutralizing the medicine.
That is just wild. You are drinking the exact same beverage, but the biology is completely different based on just a splash of milk.
Completely different. Now, the good news is that plant milks, almond, soy, oat, do not contain casein. They don't have this binding effect. So if you need that creamy texture, go plant-based. But for maximum potency, black is best.
Okay, that's a big one. Tip number 2. This is a Japanese phrase, hara hachi bu,
which translates to eat until you are 80% full.
This sounds a little bit like generic diet advice, don't eat too much. But Dr. Lee explains the metabolic reason why overeating is so dangerous using what he calls the gas station analogy. And I have to say, this visual has really stayed with me.
It's a visceral image, isn't it? Think about filling your car with gas. The pump has a sensor in it. When the tank is full, it clicks off. You can't overfill it.
Humans do not have a clicker.
We definitely do not. We have hormones like leptin and ghrelin that are supposed to be our clicker. But in the modern world of hyper-palatable processed food, those signals get jammed very easily. We can eat way past 100% full.
So what happens when you keep pumping gas into a tank that's already full?
It spills over. It runs down the side of the car. It splashes all over your shoes. It pools on the concrete. You are suddenly standing in a toxic, flammable puddle.
And that is what happens inside our bodies.
Metabolically, yes. When you overload your mitochondria, which are the little energy factories inside your cells, with more fuel than they can possibly burn, the whole system backs up. It starts spewing out free radicals. It creates massive oxidative stress. It forces your body to store the excess as visceral fat. That's the really dangerous fat around your organs. You are literally creating a toxic spill inside your own cells.
So hara hachi bu is about learning to be your own clicker, manually stopping the pump.
Exactly. Since we don't have an automatic one, we have to use our brains. The trick is to stop when you are no longer hungry, not when you are stuffed. There's a very big difference between those two feelings.
That brings us to the final tip. Tip number 3, skip breakfast. Or, to put it more scientifically, engage in intermittent fasting.
This one requires some serious deprogramming for a lot of people. We all grew up hearing breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
It's practically a religious commandment in our culture.
It is. But do you know where that phrase actually came from?
I always assumed it came from a doctor or some big medical study.
No. It came from a marketing campaign. In the early 20th century, companies like Kellogg's were trying to sell their new processed grain cereals, cornflakes. Before that, breakfast for most people was leftovers from last night's dinner, or eggs, or they just skipped it. The idea that you must eat a specific meal immediately upon waking was an ad slogan designed to sell boxes of cereal.
That is actually infuriating. We have built our entire morning routine for a century around a sales pitch from 1910.
We have. And biologically, Dr. Lee argues that the body really appreciates the break. He calls it metabolic rest. Remember the insulin spike we talked about? If you eat dinner at 8 p.m. and then you eat breakfast at 7 a.m., your insulin is almost constantly elevated. By skipping breakfast or just pushing it back to 11 a.m. or noon, you extend that overnight fast.
You give the car wash we talked about more time to run.
Exactly. You allow your insulin levels to drop to baseline, which signals to your body to start burning stored fat for fuel. You give the housekeeping staff more time to finish the job without being interrupted. He jokes that skipping a meal isn't like skipping school. You don't get in trouble for it. Your body actually gives you a gold star.
It goes right back to that theme of agency. You don't have to eat just because the clock says it's breakfast time. You can choose to let your body rest and repair.
Agency is the word of the day, for sure.
It really is. I mean, we've covered so much, from the stem cell SWAT team and the dark chocolate that activates it, to the blueberry shield for athletes, the car wash of sleep, feeding our gut roommates with kiwi, avoiding the dairy trap in our coffee, and learning to stop the gas pump before it overflows.
It's a comprehensive toolkit. And if you notice, none of this required a prescription pad. It required a grocery list and some mindfulness.
It really challenges that old narrative that we are just passive victims of our genetics.
It completely does. The fact that those 60-year-olds in the study could reverse the age of their blood vessels in 30 days, that proves that the body is always, always trying to heal. It's just waiting for the right signal. It's waiting for you to call in the SWAT team.
I think that's the most hopeful message we've had on the show in a very long time, and it leaves me with a final thought. If simple dietary changes can reverse conditions we all thought were permanent, like heart disease, what else is possible? What other incurable things are we currently accepting that are just waiting for the right dietary trigger?
That is a frontier of medicine.
Yeah.
And I think we are just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go find some very, very dark chocolate and maybe take a nap to let my car wash run. Thank you for walking us through all this, and thank you to Dr. Lee for the incredible source material.
My pleasure. Eat to beat disease. It's that simple.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care of your SWAT team. We'll see you in the next deep dive.